grabar. Si usted, por favor, tiene algún inconveniente o algún comentario, nos lo deja saber inmediatamente para comenzar la grabación. Okay, Heather.
Okay. So I will go ahead and get started. I am so excited to see you all here tonight. And for our third Democracy in Action virtual conversation, my name is Heather Meyer, and I'm the program coordinator with the Family Leadership Training Institute of Colorado at Colorado State University Extension. But perhaps most importantly, like many of you, I also am a family leader. In the last 3 years since I've worked with FLTI, my life has been changed profoundly by the work of family leaders throughout Colorado. Over and over again, FLTI has shown me the importance of actively involving multiple perspectives in public decision-making to harness the incredible power of true collaboration. Before we get started, we have several technical logistics to cover. So I just wanted to make a note that everybody is entering on mute to avoid background noise and interruptions. But as you have comments, you are free to use the chat box. We also, as you are seeing from the slide and hopefully hearing, doing this call in both English and Spanish. So if you need interpretation for one or the other, the globe icon at the bottom of the screen will allow you that choice. Also, if you are on the call and start to freeze or notice some freezing, it is sometimes helpful to go down to the bottom of the screen and select stop video. If that is a problem for you with your internet service provider, that could free up some bandwidth and make that a lot easier for viewing and keep you from missing out on a lot of things. Also down at the bottom, we have a button called the reactions button where you can do a thumbs up or raise your hand. And I thought I would like to have everybody try that out so that we can make sure that people can use it as we're going along the call tonight. So I'm seeing some thumbs up. Is anybody else wanting to try that out? Awesome, thank you guys. Let's see. And then as we often say in FLTI, connection before content, we're going to go into just a little bit of the content before we do the connection, and so that you'll know what the expectations are for tonight with our agenda. So we are going to start by establishing connection with introductions. Due to time constraints and a number of folks that are on the call tonight, if you all who are viewing and not have a speaking part tonight can introduce yourself in the box using who you are and where you're from. We will be monitoring that and cheering along with you all. We also will have a brief presentation of affordable housing trends in Colorado, along with the COVID-19 economic impact that's happening currently and racial disparities amongst those. Followed by that, we are going to be hearing from some very special guests tonight with our speakers. And so we will be listening to family leaders that are coming to talk about the work they're involved with affordable housing, as well as Dre Chiriboga Flor from 9 to 5 Colorado. And then we'll just be spending some time having conversation, taking questions from the chat and from folks raising their hands to go through some of the themes and feelings that arise tonight as we have our conversation. So with me tonight, I'm going to stop sharing so that we can introduce my co-facilitator, Illyria Bayo. And Illyria, if you can speak so that people can see you highlight, because they can't hear your hand wave.
Hello, everybody.
Awesome. So Illyria is with us from Aurora, Colorado tonight, and she'll be joining me in introducing our guests and asking questions. But we also have several behind the scenes helpers tonight whose contributions wouldn't have, if we didn't have them, they wouldn't have made this call possible. So I really want to thank our partners at the Community Language Cooperative for making this call accessible to folks that are not English speakers, and also for allowing us to hear those that are Spanish speakers to be able to really hear what they have to say tonight. So thank you, Indira, for being with us. And then our planning and technical assistance team, including Hilda Gerke and Kim Massey from FLTI of Jefferson County, Lisa Auer from FLTI of Larimer County, and our FLTI of Colorado Director, Patty Schmidt. So on behalf of CSU Extension, we're honored to be here with you all tonight and explore these interactions of the growing needs for affordable housing in our state, along with the economic impacts of COVID-19 and the racial disparities that we see that are compounding these interactions. While Illyria is introducing our guests tonight, you can go ahead and continue to give your shout out to yourself in the chat box, including who you are and where you're from. And now I'm going to hand it over to Illyria.
Thank you, Heather. Good evening, everybody. It's so nice to have you here, all of you. So in addition to our facilitation and tech support team, we have some very special guests tonight, including my FLTI of Eagle County peer, Araceli Newman, who now works with FLTI of Larimer County and La Familia's Mi Voz program, which seeks to empower residents of local mobile home parks. With Araceli tonight from Mi Voz are Fernando Leiva and Sandra Ruiz. Hello to both of you. We also have a story from a family leader that has been pre-recorded to protect her identity. Finally, we are pleased to partner with Dre, the state director for 9-5 Colorado, to decide for our state. 9-5 is one of the largest, most respected national membership organizations of working women in the U.S., dedicated to putting economic justice issues on the public agenda. Nationally, they have worked for and won major policy issues such as 1978 Pregnancy Discrimination Act, the Civil Rights Act in 1991, the Family Medical Leave Act, and the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act. In Colorado, 9-5 works closely with other economic justice organizations and communities to lobby public policy that promotes greater financial stability and opportunity for Colorado families. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, Illyria. Okay. So I'm so encouraged by you all being here tonight. And before we actually, well, let me stop the share. We're going to do a little poll real quick. Or not. Never mind. We are having technical difficulties. So my question would be is that everybody that registered should have gotten a confirmation email with some additional materials for the call tonight. And my question is whether people were able to access some of those materials. There are a couple of reports, including one from our guest from 9-5 Colorado, and also a video on kind of the long-term history of racialized housing policies. So with a show of thumbs up or hands raised, who was able to look into some of that stuff before the call tonight? Okay, looks like a few of you, and some folks are saying that they didn't get them. So, and that's okay. We can follow up with that, and it's good, you know, reinforcement as we talk tonight. So, I just wanted to see how successful we were with doing that. It was something a little different that we were doing tonight. So, of those that did get the materials, were there any surprises that you had as you looked through some of that stuff? Anything that stood out to you?
Anybody wants to share?
Sorry, Illyria, can you say that again?
Anybody wants to share?
Heather, I'm seeing a few folks who are saying in the chat that they didn't get them either. And so I did put in the chat that we will be sending out those materials after tonight's call.
Yep, yep. Okay, cool. Well, that's all right. Like I said, it was just something that we were going to try and see if it was helpful to frame the conversation. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started with some information on affordable housing in Colorado. And let me get those slides right back up. Okay. So we're going to dive right into affordable housing in Colorado and noticing that in a study that was done by the Housing Studies of Harvard University in 2017, found that 51%, over half of all renters in Colorado, are cost burdened. And by cost burdened, we mean that they pay 30% or more. Well, no, sorry, back up. They pay over 30% of their household income to their housing costs. So what if I told you, though, that of these cost burdened renters, more of them are actually severely cost burdened in that they're paying over half of their income towards their housing costs? Is anybody surprised by that? All right. As we move on, what if I told you that some of those cost burden stats are very different according to race? If we look at white renters in Colorado, that 51% drops down to 43%. But if we look at our renters of color in Colorado, the Latinx and Black individuals, those numbers go up overall to 57, 56%, but then they also have a much higher rate of being severely cost burdened, paying that over half of their income to housing. In addition, children of color are getting hit really hard with this. When it comes to children living in cost-burdened homes, Black and Latinx children are almost twice as likely to live in cost-burdened homes than white children are, which has implications to their school performance, healthy social-emotional development, and environmental justice issues. So what does that bring up for people as you hear these things?
So Heather, we have some in the chat. We see it is expensive to live here and it continues to get more costly. Several people said they see this sounds about right and they're not too surprised. And how complex the funding is to get affordable housing and community.
Yeah, definitely. Then there's COVID-19 and that changes a lot of things this year. A lot of people are saying that the economic injustice that COVID-19 has brought to light is stuff that's new, but a lot of it actually is stuff that has been there for a long time. A lot of health inequities and impacts, as well as some economic injustices that are happening. So what we are seeing along COVID-19 for health purposes is that long-term limited access to care and disparities in chronic disease has been definitely something of note when you're looking at comparing white folks to people of color, that they are more likely to have long-term conditions such as asthma, diabetes, heart disease, because of sometimes this limited access to care and some of the environmental justice issues of having to live in overcrowded housing or in more industrial neighborhoods. On top of that, with COVID-19, the inequities that came to light are that there was limited access to personal protective equipment and therefore risking exposure. And that COVID tests were not available for undocumented immigrants. And then there's an increased likelihood of exposure for people of color because 15 to 32% of the job share in essential services are held by people of color. In addition to that, some of the disparities that we see with COVID have shown that proportionate to the percentage of race that the different categories, so white, Latinx, Black, and or other races, multiracials, other races, their cases of COVID has actually been increased. You'll see that the deaths at this point, this report that this slide is based on was in April, and at that point that was not showing a disparity. There has been new data since the slide was prepared that does show, in fact, that the deaths are disparate impact by race as well. But this is just for the state of Colorado, and it varies depending on communities. So one of the things that we wanted to look at and drill down a little deeper on is that in Boulder County, only 14% of their population is Latinx, but almost twice that many in percent were the cases of COVID-19. And then when you look at the hospitalizations by race, the Latinx community was hit particularly hard, being almost a third of the hospitalizations in Boulder County. Economic impacts were even more magnified through COVID-19, and the Black, Latinx, and immigrant workers are more likely to have the lower paying jobs without benefits like sick leave. So if they did start to show symptoms or somebody in their household did and they had to be a caregiver, being able to take that time off of work with pay was is something that was not always accessible to everybody. Additionally, more women have been laid off due to COVID than men, according to the Pew Research Center in a report last month. And we're talking a pretty large discrepancy here. There was 11.5 million women that have been laid off due to COVID specifically versus 9 million men. And of those, Black, Latinx, and immigrant workers, women, have been hit the hardest with those layoffs. And then kind of compounding that is that there's a lack of access to the stimulus dollars. So whether it's somebody that is here on a work visa or and they're married or not, if they didn't file a tax return, those households were not eligible for those stimulus dollars. Similarly, if there's a family that has the dependents living with them, like kinship care kinds of arrangements, and they aren't technically on their tax return because of the legalities of the custody haven't been worked out yet, then they were not getting those additional $500 for the additional members of their family. And so taking those things into consideration, we're now looking at a housing crisis where people who are already struggling to make their rent are hit even harder with either getting sick, having people sick in their home, or having this economic hit of losing their livelihood and their ability to pay their bills has kind of brought everything to the forefront. So with that in mind, I think that's all that I have for this slideshow. Illyria, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I don't know if I missed this, Heather, but I want to mention that I know you mentioned about the $500 that some families are missing. I just want to add, I don't know if I missed it, and if I did, my apologies. I just want to add that if a family member is married to an undocumented person and that person is in their tax, they are not getting anything at all. Either. So that's, I mean, even if one family member is documented, the other one is not getting, I mean, the entire family doesn't get anything. So that's another issue, right?
Yeah, it's a lot. So how is this information hitting you as an audience? Was any surprises in that, or anything you'd like to add to it?
So wow, Heather, this is a lot considering many Colorado families were struggling to pay for their housing before all of this. And now, with racial tensions mounting, we have safety and mental well-being to add to the mix of Colorado families.
Right? So in addition to some of the well-being of the family's stability with their economics, and also the health situations, then there's things like, you know, prejudice and bias that are bubbling up in our community and really adding to the stress of a lot of really uncertain times. So I see Patty said that she felt sadness and overwhelm on how to change this for sure. And Dawn said current COVID relief programs seem to fall short. And Patty then added, it is easy to get overwhelmed, but makes me want to see community involved in getting these inequities to change, which is a great segue into our next portion of the conversation. Illyria, did you want to introduce our groups that are here to speak?
Hey, Heather, I just wanted to point out there were a couple more, and I thought there were some good ones to add to the conversation.
Okay, yeah.
Let's see. Hay personas que se, oh, sorry, my chat inscribieron y no se pueden.
You want help?
No se pueden conectar. ¿Qué pueden hacer?
There are people that register and cannot connect. What can they do?
Oh, for this call today?
Yeah, for the session.
Okay. Well, if I will post again, I'll put the chat back, the Zoom chat link in the chat. If you could share that link with them, hopefully that would help them to join, or you can also have them email the FLTI of Colorado email, and I'll see if I can work with them to do that. And then Heather got to it first, and then there were a couple more. Alice Pugh mentioned that migrant workers are also living and working in crowded warehouses and living in migrant housing. They are very vulnerable to both COVID and lack of housing. As well, Beth Riley added that Eagle County did a pretty good job offering testing to immigrants. Housing has already been a significant problem in Eagle County pre-COVID too, so that was the case. And then Tony Lynch said that was no surprise. And then Sarah shared some about just there's so many layers of oppression. Sad at seeing this information, but not surprised. Great, thank you.
All right. So Illyria, you were going to introduce our folks from MIVOS?
Yes. Okay, Araceli, Fernando, and Sandra are here from MIVOS, a grassroots housing advocacy group in Larimer County and are going to talk about how the issues of affordable housing are affecting them and what they are doing to create change. Thank you all for being here tonight.
And Lisa noted that they're also part of FLTI. So yes, we love that connection. Araceli is facilitating FLTI, or was prior to COVID, and now they're working on getting started back up for their virtual continuation planning. So we're glad to see you and glad to have you all on here. Fernando, did you want to start? Or was Araceli starting?
I think Araceli is
Es
first.
Fernando primero.
Fernando?
And Fernando, you're muted.
¿Sí me escuchan?
Yeah, I gotcha, Fernando.
Hello, ¿escuchan?
Yep.
Sí.
Oh, we may have lost him.
Ok. Ok. Puedo empezar yo. Ok, puedo empezar yo. Hola a todos. Estoy muy contenta de estar aquí con ustedes. Y pues sí, yo soy facilitadora ahora en este año de en FLTI, pero quiero agregar que soy un líder familiar, estudiante de FLTI en el año 2014, donde solo era puro inglés. Y también ahorita estoy como codirectora y organizadora comunitaria del programa Mi Voz. Como todos sabemos, los parques de casas móviles son la última opción de vivienda asequible aquí en Fort Collins, porque sabemos que las rentas y las hipotecas son muy elevadas. Entonces, para algunas familias, esta es una buena opción. Pero al mismo tiempo existen muchos obstáculos en estos parques que los residentes tienen que lidiar día a día, como es la renta les sube cada rato, que no tienen una clarificación en lo que es el agua, que reciben represalias por parte de los managers, que sí reciben costos por cosas simples que realmente no le afectan a nadie. Entonces, todos los días ellos tienen que lidiar con diferentes situaciones. Y si agregamos a esto lo que pasó ahora con la pandemia, la difícil situación y el miedo que existe todavía por los residentes de perder su hogar, de ser desalojados por no haber una ley que los ayude a tener un lapso más largo, más extenso para poder pagar su vivienda. Entonces, sabemos que ya algunos regresaron a sus trabajos, ya tienen, pero todavía quedan muchas cosas por pagar, por otra vez volver a un estado normal que como en el que estaban. Entonces, Mi Voz es un programa de abogacía por un cambio en las políticas y el sistema local y también estatal, porque sabemos que muchas leyes dependen que pasen en el estado y eso va a ayudar también en lo que es el gobierno local. Entonces, hemos tenido participación también en el estatal con 9 to 5, que nos hemos apoyado también con ellos. Y también esto nació por la preocupación de los residentes acerca de preservar los parques y también acerca de tener protección para ellos mismos. Tenemos 3 enfoques en Mi Voz. El primero es abordar las preocupaciones de la comunidad, la participación cívica y la preservación de los parques de estas casas móviles. Ustedes dirán, ¿cómo lo hacemos? Pues sí, es la parte que más me gusta, porque invitamos a que la comunidad lo guíe todo. Esto es algo que hemos hecho y ha resultado muy bueno porque es lo que queremos. Tenemos un grupo de líderes que ellos deciden cómo hacer las cosas o de qué hablar o qué es lo más importante, cómo acercarse a los otros residentes de las comunidades. Entonces, Sandra va a hablar un poquito más de todo esto. Y también hacemos reuniones con los políticos para que escuchen la voz y las necesidades de cada comunidad. Esto ha resultado muy bueno porque los líderes y residentes han conocido a través de entrenamientos y educación, conociendo sus derechos y también cómo ellos pueden alzar su voz, porque si viven aquí, ellos tienen una voz importante y deben ser escuchados. Hemos ido al City Hall y también al Capitolio, como les dije, para hacer public speech. Y también hemos apoyado propuestas ante los legisladores y más. Hemos tenido muchos logros que nos ha sido muy beneficioso y eso nos motiva a seguir adelante empoderando la comunidad. Gracias.
Wonderful. Thank you, Araceli. And I see that Fernando is back with us. He said he had a bad connection. Are you able to join us, Fernando?
¿Escuchan?
He's there.
¿Me escuchan?
A little bit. I can hear the translation or the interpretation.
Okay. Es que no escuchan. Bueno, participante de FLTI en este 2020 y participo como líder comunitario con el programa Mi Voz. Yo vivo aquí en México.
Indira, it got really quiet on your end. Okay, so she can't hear because it's cutting out with
Problemática por
Fernando.
resolver. Por mencionar algunos, es el cobro excesivo por el agua, la falta de claridad en esto, no puede un medidor en cada caso, lo que los cobradores, así como los recargos que hacen por dejar ciertas cosas afuera de las casas que no están escritas en las reglas, luego nos salen con que ya cambiaron otras injusticias que he sabido por otras personas, es que te piden hacer mejoras a tu tráiler y después no te aceptan tu aplicación, pero sí aceptan el pago de cada mes por estar viviendo ahí. Y a su vez te siguen molestando, intimidando hasta los menores de edad, que ellos no tendrían por qué estar enterados de lo que sucede. Y yo creo que cada familia lo único que quiere y necesita es vivir en paz en su casa. Otra situación, aparte de las antes mencionadas, es lo que está pasando en estos últimos meses, es el virus del COVID-19. Pues muchas familias perdieron su trabajo y a otras les disminuyeron las horas de trabajo, lo cual se han visto afectadas en su economía familiar, a lo cual las rentas no esperan y la ayuda para pagar no fue para todos ni suficiente. Aparte, los gastos mensuales de cada hogar no solo incluyen la renta, también están el pago de teléfonos, aseguranzas para los carros, puesto que el tener un carro es una necesidad primaria para poder transportarte a tu trabajo o ir por tus víveres, etc. También está el pago del internet, que con lo del COVID-19, nuestros hijos están en clases en línea y es solo esa alternativa. En fin, son muchos los gastos que se generan en tener una vivienda digna y creo que los líderes tomadores de decisiones tienen que escuchar la voz de la comunidad para hacer cambios y nuevas leyes que favorezcan a todos y sobre todo a aquellos que menos tienen. Agradezco la atención de este servidor, que lo único que busca es el bienestar para mi familia y el de todas las familias que necesitan ser escuchadas con dignidad y respeto. Gracias.
Thank you, Fernando, and thank you for continuing to persevere in sharing that even through the technical issues. That is just a huge testament to, you know, making your voice heard, and we just thank you so much for sharing tonight. And did we have Sandra, right?
Sí, Sandra. Hola. ¿Sí me escuchan bien? Ok. Mi nombre es Sandra Ruiz. Soy líder en mi comunidad Potter Valley Mobile Home Park por medio del programa Mi Voz. Participé en FLTI este año 2020, pero desafortunadamente no pudimos continuar por lo del virus. Pero aprendí muchas cosas que me apoyaron y me ayudaron a poder servir mejor mi comunidad. Mi experiencia en Mi Voz como líder de mi comunidad ha sido de mucho aprendizaje. He aprendido la importancia de reunir a la comunidad para hablar de cómo podríamos mejorar nuestro parque, porque hay mucha necesidad. También hemos recibido entrenamientos para aprender sobre nuestros derechos como residentes de casas móviles. Eso fue de mucho beneficio para todos los que asistimos, ya que la información te empodera y te da valor para defenderte y no dejar que se aprovechen como ellos quieren. Entonces, eso fue de mucho beneficio. Otra experiencia muy interesante que he tenido en Mi Voz fue haber conocido a algunos políticos de nuestra ciudad, los cuales nos han escuchado y se han interesado en hacer lo posible en ayudarnos a preservar los parques de casas móviles, porque esto es este es nuestro hogar accesible. Eso es lo que podemos pagar nosotros, lo cual está bien y muchos nos gusta, pero nos gustaría también que los dueños de los parques nos trataran con más dignidad, no nomás porque uno vive en una comunidad que es pues más pobre que la normal, tienen derecho a tratarnos como ellos quieren. So, me gusta que Mi Voz le interesa que nosotros nos empoderemos con información y para poder salir adelante todos juntos. Eso es todo. Gracias por escuchar.
Thank you, Sandra. That was great.
So, and at this time, we also had another family leader that shared her story via recording because we wanted to protect her identity. There have been some tensions in her area. So there's no visual that goes with it, but Hilda has the audio. And Hilda, are you gonna, there you go.
Mexicana, y vengo de una ciudad donde la mayoría de las personas son dueñas de sus casas y que el pago de tierra solo se hace una vez al año por el impuesto que ésta genera. Cuando emigré aquí, me di cuenta de la situación de vivienda. Hay que pagar renta y no todos tienen acceso a tener su propia casa. Después de 8 años en un apartamento y con 2 niños pequeños, tenemos la oportunidad de movernos a una casa móvil donde somos dueños de la misma, pero no de la tierra, y hay que seguir pagando mes a mes una renta al propietario por el espacio que ocupa la misma. Una renta mensual que no nos da garantía de absolutamente nada. Los niños no pueden usar scooters ni bicicletas. Pagamos extra por estacionamiento aunque tengamos espacio para tener más carros. Aunque sea tu casa, los propietarios deciden de cuál color debes pintarla, qué poner y qué quitar. Suben la renta cada diciembre por casi $100 mensuales más. Hace 6 años atrás, yo pagaba $500 por la renta del lote. Actualmente pago $950 por mes por el espacio en el cual no tengo ninguna autoridad. Las personas que no tenemos acceso a una vivienda propia necesitamos leyes justas que nos ayuden a parar los incrementos excesivos de renta, más facilidad a tener nuestra propia vivienda, inversores que compren estos lotes de casas móviles y ellos mismos nos vendan la tierra para que cada uno sea dueño, pueda tener un mejor futuro con algo propio y no toda una vida pagando renta. Estos incrementos de renta son excesivos, ya que el sueldo de una persona no sube, sigue siendo el mismo año tras año.
So thank you so much for that. What are you all feeling right now as you have heard from some of the statistics and then also from some of the personal stories that are happening on the call tonight? What questions are bubbling up for you?
You can speak in Spanish if you want to.
And you can also put
I
in the
just
chat
want to
box.
say that
Xiomara levantó su mano.
Gracias. Sí, en primer lugar, disculparme porque mi cámara no está funcionando. No puedo verles directamente, pero me siento identificada con la mayoría de cosas que han mencionado en este Zoom. Adicional a eso, quiero informarles que, bueno, mi nombre es Xiomara Blanco. Represento al grupo de apoyo para padres con niños con capacidades especiales de Jefferson. Y sumado a todo lo que han mencionado muchos de los líderes, yo podría decir los biles médicos que no se detienen, ¿verdad? Porque son biles que me preocupan para que mi hijo pueda seguir teniendo sus terapias y que pueda seguir teniendo lo necesario para salir adelante en su vida más adulta. Pero, ¿cuál es la prioridad para mí? Mi casa, la alimentación, los biles de salud de mi hijo. O sea, todo es prioridad para poder salir adelante en este momento y aún más, ¿verdad? Cuidar la salud de mi hijo porque no puedo salir a la calle, específicamente porque él tiene un sistema inmune bajo y no quisiera que él se me contagiara y tener un problema adicional a los que ya tengo. Pero definitivamente un problema que yo puedo ver de todos los meses, de cada 30 y 31 de mes, perdón, de cada 30 y 31 de mes, es el pago de la renta. Gracias.
Thank you, Xiomara. That was very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any other thoughts? Anybody else wants to share anything? Any other comments?
Hi, this is Beth Riley from Eagle County. And we have mobile home park issues in our community, the same that you're experiencing. And in some cases, it's even worse where rents can be, the lot rent can be $1,200, $1,500 a month. And it also goes up every year. In addition to being an FLTI facilitator, I'm on a elected board in our community of Edwards. And I really want to advocate for those that live in some of the mobile park housing. And I've asked members of that community to come to our board members and say, hey, this is a problem. And I've been on that board for 6 years and no one has ever come to raise their voice. And so it puts me in a little bit of predicament because with my fellow board members, it's me raising the issues with my co-board members, but they're never hearing from the community themselves. So it doesn't seem as authentic. And then the second thing is most of the residents of the mobile home park are immigrants and Latinos. And thinking about equity and racism, I want to advocate for that community, but I don't feel right being a voice for that community as a white person not living in that community. So I really want to encourage all the family leaders out there to go to those meetings. It can take your issues a lot farther if your voices are there. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Beth. Do we have any other comments that are made, or are you guys ready to move on?
Oh, there's some comments that were made in the chat. We have Jenny who says if afraid of something isn't done, you're going to see more people facing homelessness and increasing complications with mental illness and so much more. We have Lucy say, what can people without documents do? We cannot use our voice because we're afraid of repercussions. If you say something, excuse me, I'm sorry, it went away. You say something, if you say anything about the excessive cut, Nadine says the power of your personal story. And this one's in Spanish. Nunca no tiene documentos, or if you don't have documents, all of the rights for inclusion and to get, I believe, to have them translated yourself. I can let Hilda if she wants. And someone, and then Hilda just reiterated to us,
So, and Alba has her hand up, so we'd like to hear from you.
Sí. Yo, para mí es un gran problema el de las personas que viven en casas móviles, porque la verdad es que yo no soy una de ellas, afortunadamente, pero tengo muchísima gente conocida a mi alrededor que sufren del abuso de quienes administran ese lote, porque esos lotes, porque estas personas, a pesar de que supuestamente son dueñas de su casa, no son dueñas de su terreno, y los dueños de los terrenos abusan de manera increíble de ellos. Y la verdad es que la falta de documentos hace peor esta situación, porque los mismos administradores amenazan a las personas que viven ahí. Entonces, yo abogaría por esta población, porque me parece que es una situación bien complicada y bien triste para ellos.
¿Puedo mencionar algo? Yo lo que les sugiero a todos es que si se dan cuenta, no están solos. Esto sucede en todos los parques. Entonces, no sigan insistiendo en hacer abogacía, acérquense a aquellos grupos que puedan apoyarlos, acérquense a líderes de las comunidades, sigan insistiendo porque ustedes tienen un derecho. Ustedes pagan una renta, tienen un derecho. Y todos los seres humanos, no importa de dónde seamos, no importa de dónde vengamos, tenemos derecho a tener una vivienda y una vivienda digna.
So, and I had just a note to say that in the chat, Sarah has posted some really great resources about places to make complaints with the state, the Department of Local Affairs, in both Spanish and English. So we will share those resources with everybody as we follow up. Also, just to reiterate, the mobile home park thing is very much a part of some of the issues that are compounding in affordable housing, but the issues of affordable housing being expensive and not having enough of it in Colorado is not just limited to mobile homes. It's also an issue among rental units that are multifamily housing. They are also issues with getting into home ownership. The cost of living is so high. So affordable housing across the board is an issue for all of us. And so there was a question, Nadine had a question that maybe Dre, when we get to her portion, can address, but if not, we can follow up on. It says, what policies are in place around holding landowners accountable to the agreements made with the mobile owners? And so I think with that, we're ready to move on to Dre's portion of the program. And so amazing just to hear from you all and your stories. And I really do thank you, all of you that shared, because this is personal and it's hard. So what Dre Triboga Floor from 9 to 5 Colorado is going to talk to us about tonight is the legislative scene that has been on around affordable housing issues in the state capital, and how family leaders can get involved as we prepare for the 2021 legislative session. So Dre, would you mind telling us a bit about yourself and the work that you do with 9 to 5 Colorado?
Yeah, muchas gracias. Voy a hablar un poco en español porque la mayoría de la gente están haciendo preguntas en español sobre viviendo en casas móviles. Quiero decir muchas gracias, Araceli. He trabajado contigo por más o menos un año sobre los asuntos que están pasando en Fort Collins, y por eso hemos hecho muchos entrenamientos para que la gente sepa sus derechos. Primero quiero decir que aunque no tengan documentos, los derechos de inquilinos, los derechos de dueños de casas móviles pertenecen a todos, no importa si tienes documentos o no. Eso es lo primero. Segundo, hay una ley que pasó.
Dre, can I stop you for just a moment? I guess we're having a hard time hearing you on the Spanish channel.
Okay.
But I was hearing you fine through.
Yo estoy en español y no tuve ningún problema.
Okay. Bueno, avíseme si necesito llamar a mi teléfono porque tal vez funciona mejor el audio. Okay. Okay. So, hay una ley que pasó este año que dice que no pueden discriminar basado en su estado migratorio. So, si, por ejemplo, te mudas a un apartamento, a un casa móvil y el dueño dice que tienes que pagar más por su estado migratorio o tienes que llenar un formulario específicamente que tiene que ver con tu estado migratorio, que eso es discriminación. Y también si tratan de llamar a ICE, la migra, o básicamente si tratan de tomar represalias basado en tu estado migratorio, eso es completamente ilegal. Eso es algo nuevo, una ley que pasó este año, y si tienen más preguntas, estoy más de feliz de mandarte una página de todos tus derechos basado en esa nueva ley. Las otras leyes que pasaron este año, dos tienen que ver con casas móviles. Uno tiene que ver con el hecho que los dueños, los propietarios de los parques no te pueden desalojar porque tu casa está pintado este color y quieren que sea otro color, o si te desalojan, tiene que ser una razón que afecta a toda la comunidad. Entonces, escuché un poco, alguien estaba hablando que un propietario está diciendo, no puedes pintar tu casa de ese color, o no puedes tener esta verja, o lo que sea. Si eso no afecta a tus vecinos como negativamente, entonces no pueden tener esa regla, y también no te pueden desalojar por esa razón. También esta nueva ley dice que si tú tratas de organizar una asociación o un sindicato para unir a la gente que está viviendo en ese parque y la dueña o el dueño propietario del parque trata de desalojarte o tomar represalias, eso es ilegal también. Sí, no pueden tomar represalias contra ustedes por tratar de organizar una asociación, organizar para abogar por sus derechos. Otra cosa que esta ley hace es que el dueño o la dueña del propietario necesitan dar transparencias en por qué están cobrando por diferentes costas de utilidades. Por luz, por agua, necesitan decir por qué están cobrando y la cantidad que están cobrando, porque muchas veces estamos escuchando que están cobrando como $100 o $200 y la gente que está viviendo en estas casas no saben por qué, porque no hay transparencia en por qué están cobrando esos costos. También dice que los propietarios tienen que tener razones legítimas por entrar a una casa, pero necesitan avisar antes de que entran a una casa. Entonces, para 9 a 5 estuvimos escuchando a gente diciendo que el propietario estaba entrando a la propiedad, aunque están rentando esa propiedad, sin avisar. Y ahora es ilegal que lo hacen. Necesitan dar un poco de tiempo antes de que lo hacen. Esas son las cosas más importantes en esa ley. La segunda ley tiene que ver con la oportunidad a comprar el parque. Algunos de ustedes tal vez, yo sé que Araceli sabe muy bien sobre este parque en Aurora, donde el dueño quería vender la propiedad para desarrollarlo y crear hoteles y todas esas cosas y desalojar a casi 110 familias de este parque. Luchamos por casi 3 años para que nos cierren el parque, pero nosotros no tuvimos derechos para comprar el parque. Entonces le ofrecimos como $20 millones a comprar ese parque, este terreno, y el dueño dijo, no, yo quiero $60 millones. $60 millones. Obviamente no tuvimos esa cantidad, entonces perdimos ese caso. Y desde que yo empecé a 9 a 5 hace casi 6 años, estamos luchando para que los dueños de las casas, dueños de casas móviles pueden comprar el terreno, porque eso es el sueño, ¿no es cierto? He escuchado a muchos de ustedes diciendo que eso es el problema, es que ellos pueden aumentar el precio del terreno para que rentan y no tienen opción. No es que pueden mover la casa. Mover la casa a veces puede costar hasta $10,000. Entonces, la única opción es pagar más y más y más. Y alguien dijo que estaba pagando $950 por lote. Eso es casi la cantidad de pagar una casa o una hipoteca. Entonces, esta ley nueva que recién es activo, dice que si un dueño de un parque quiere vender la propiedad o quiere desarrollarlo para crear apartamentos o lo que sea, necesita comunicar con no solo los residentes directamente, pero también a la ciudad y el estado. Porque a veces el estado y la ciudad y otras organizaciones tienen el dinero para comprarlo, pero si no saben, no pueden tomar esa oportunidad. Esos son algunos de los leyes nuevas que ya pasaron. Vamos a hacer más entrenamientos sobre qué significa esas nuevas leyes y puedo poner un link en el chat si quieren estar en nuestra lista de mensajes para que si tenemos entrenamientos pueden enterarse y pueden estar presentes en esos entrenamientos porque sí son nuevas leyes muy nuevas. Y también el año pasado Araceli estaba muy ya vi otra pregunta. El año pasado pasamos otra ley y Araceli ayudó mucho con esto para que si hay quejas, si hay violaciones de la ley, pueden someter sus quejas en un sistema, un programa estatal para que no tengan que pagar por un abogado privado y eso fue actualizado en mayo, el 1 de mayo. Y entonces también estamos haciendo entrenamiento sobre eso. Sí, esas son nuevas leyes y hay muchas leyes nuevas que pertenecen a dueños de casas móviles. Sí hay leyes para protecciones para gente que rentan apartamentos, pero son muy diferentes y no son tan fuertes. No sé, bueno, si tienen preguntas específicas que tienen que ver con derechos de inquilinos de apartamentos, yo les puedo responder y si no sé las respuestas, yo puedo preguntar a nuestro abogado.
Thanks, Andrea. That I think is a really good overview of the laws that went into effect over the mobile home parks and the immigration status, things that are very kind of pertinent and pressing right now. Was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what is being done to address the needs of families that may have fallen behind on their rent during this COVID time. And then, there was a moratorium on evictions, but then, as that's being lifted, what has been put in place for families to kind of pay that back in a gradual way versus all at once and then having a flood of evictions in our state?
So I'll answer this in English. The eviction moratorium, a moratorium just means stopping something in legal language. And so we had an eviction moratorium that ended on June 13th. And so that means that their evictions can continue to be processed after that date. And we're devastated. So many people worked on this. So many residents like you all worked to push the legislature to extend that moratorium, but it was not extended. And that's devastating. It's a huge problem. And so what we're trying to do now is continue to pressure the governor. He still has the power to do this. He can still create a new moratorium. He has decided not to do that. And so we should hold him accountable. But really what that means is it's up to the courts. The courts can continue filing evictions and having eviction hearings, whether that's in person or virtually. It's really up to them, every court. So we're trying to get in contact with courts to see what is their process. Are they going to be processing evictions? But the most important thing to know is that even if your lease is up, even if you haven't paid rent, if you have not been through the legal process of an eviction, which means you get a notice to quit, it's a 10-day notice, you get sent a notice from the court to show up at court, you show up at court, the eviction is processed. If none of that happens, do not leave your home. Like, they do not have any, if you can, and you have another place to live, do that, but they have no right to try to kick you out and like throw your stuff out illegally. Like, that is all illegal. So I was at a house on Saturday, this woman, this single mother of 2 kids, her lease had been up in May, and she had negotiated with the landlord to give her a little bit more time because she had found a place in Golden, but she just needed more time. The landlord hired 3 or 4 people to throw all her stuff out into a dumpster and broke her things and broke the things that her kids made. It was devastating. It was so devastating for her. And just trying to move in general, like by yourself, was a lot of work. And so luckily me and a bunch of people came in, and then the landlord like stopped throwing things away. But all of that was illegal. You cannot force someone by throwing things out to move. Okay, so there's 3 types of illegal evictions. 1, a sheriff cannot come to your door without a writ of restitution. I can write it in the chat. So if a sheriff comes to your door and they don't have a court order to do that, they cannot do that. 2nd, they cannot turn off your utilities to push you out. That's illegal unless you have a writ of restitution, like a court order. And 3, they cannot hire people or just physically force you out of your home without a writ of restitution. And we are seeing this happening, and people assume that they have to move out because their lease is up, because they haven't paid rent. But if you have not gone through the legal process, you do not have to do that. And you need to like call us. We have a legal program. You need to call Colorado Legal Services or the news. The news is looking for stories like this because a lot of legislators and elected officials think that no one would do that. No one would do that in a pandemic. No one would force somebody out, but that's happening all the time. So I really encourage you to reach out to other people, and especially the news or us, like 9 to 5. I can put my information in the chat, but that's what's going to be happening. Sorry, I don't know if that answered the questions.
No, it does. I mean, basically, it sounds like our legislators just kind of tabled it and, oh, it'll take care of itself. And it is definitely not happening that way. And so, I just really appreciate you saying what we always say in FLTI is that, our public officials, they work for us. And we put them there. And so it is our job to take it to them and keep them accountable. So,
and it seems like landlords are taking advantage of people not knowing what their rights are, and they just do whatever they feel like doing because, I mean, they're immigrants and they are undocumented people. So they are just taking advantage of that, and that's not fair, and it's sad.
And in addition to, the things that are happening with those kind of corporate landlords and stuff like that, though, I mean, the other reality that we have is that there are folks that make their living from their investment properties and are small landlords. And so, how do we balance, that against what their needs are as far as like, if they don't get the rents from their tenants, then they're struggling to pay for those properties as well. So any thoughts on that in the work that you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like there's corporate landlords and also like this law firm, Cheddarham, Rick Seltzer, who are in charge of 80% of, or represent 80% of corporate landlords in Colorado. So they make their money off of evicting people, making people homeless. And they are also the face of the apartment association, which has been one of the key players in opposing the renters' rights bills that we have been running. And I think most of the renters' rights bills have been very common sense, like limiting application fees, requiring copies of leases and receipts. But so the head of the apartment association, which is always at the Capitol, they worked for a law firm that profited off of evictions. And so having people show up and tell their stories so powerful. Like, that's why we do the work we do. That's why our work is successful, is because and it's scary, right? Like, it's so scary to risk retaliation, to risk your landlord treating you or looking at you a certain way. You're risking your whole livelihood. And we understand that. I'm a renter. I live in an accessory dwelling unit, so it's not a corporate landlord. It's a different situation for sure. But I did live, before I lived here, in a corporate landlord apartment with like hundreds and hundreds of units. And it is scary to stand up to your landlord. And we don't expect everybody to do that because it's risky. But if you want to, and like you want that support, like, that's why we're here. And your legislator probably hasn't been a renter for years. Some of them are renters. A lot of them haven't been renters in the past like 6 years, when this whole housing crisis started, and so they don't understand that tenants are looked at as like interchangeable people that they can just kick out and then bring someone else in. They don't understand the struggle that people are going through, and that you can get your rent raised like $200. And that's the biggest campaign. Before, I know I've been talking a lot. So the biggest campaign we're working on, that's a huge struggle, is rent control is illegal in Colorado. So that means if Denver decided to cap rent at, like, you can't increase rent more than 5% a year or 10% a year, that would be considered illegal because of the state law. And so since 2016, we've been trying to overturn that ban so that cities can cap rent if they need to, because I've been hearing all these stories tonight, and that's what it comes down to, right? Is if your rent is too high, if your rent is doubled, you will become homeless. And that's not okay, because that means housing is not considered a human right or a basic necessity. You should be able to live in a home no matter who you are, and that's what we believe in.
Wow.
I'm muted. So thank you for that. And that really brings to mind a couple of questions that I saw in the chat. One was, can you being general, can somebody tell their story either to 9 to 5 or at the Capitol without telling their name? And I believe at the Capitol public testimony they have to, but for purposes of working with 9 to 5, is there a way for folks to tell their stories without sharing their name? I think you're still muted. Did that get heard? Am I frozen?
No. Dre, did you hear the question?
Yeah, just tell my story or what? Wait, sorry, I'm not sure what the question was.
Yeah, the question was, can you tell a story, like a personal story, without to 9 to 5 without having to share your name? Like, is there a way for people to avoid that retaliation by using you as kind of like a go-between in going to the Capitol?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if people can totally share their stories with me, and is that what you're saying? Like sharing their stories with me without me? Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we will definitely be sharing your information for people to follow up and provide their feedback. And then earlier there was a question of like, well, how do family leaders get involved, like to work on drafting some of these new legislative bills, you know, that your organization might see as a priority and that they're just now learning about. So how do they get involved with that?
Yeah, so like I said, the biggest bill effort that we're doing is overturning the ban on rent control, because that's the biggest issue, right, is cost. Like no one should have to pay that much money to live in a home. I've never, I'm 30 years old. I've never lived in a place that like was, you know, cheap. I think it's always been like above like 50% of what my income. And it's because we're in a housing crisis. Like we have been, and it's not getting better at all. And so, and all of my coworkers, all of us are renters, and Araceli knows like Cecia is a mobile home, like she lives in a mobile home with her family. And so this is not just about our, like the fight for everybody. This is like a fight for us too. Like we're in this together. This affects all of us. But the fact that you can't, like housing is considered a luxury that if you can't afford it, then too bad, just be homeless. Like that's obscene, and we're not one of the only countries, but like there are other countries that don't see it that way at all, and that's how it's looked at here. And we're in the middle of a pandemic and a crisis, and so like that is one of the biggest campaigns we believe in, is making rent control legal. And you can talk to any developer, the apartment association, some of our legislators who are like, this will ruin the whole economy. Well, not having rent control is ruining people's lives every day. And that's why we want to change that. And so yeah, get in touch with us. Like that's our biggest campaign. If there's other things that come up, we definitely want to hear from you and work with you and have you lead the work, because we believe in work being led by people who are most impacted by these issues. And that's why all of us are renters. None of us own property out of like the 10 people that work for my organization now, because this is about changing the lives of ourselves and like and our community and like really shifting the culture. But I can send a link, so sorry. Yeah, to sign up if you want to get in touch.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So how are we doing? Is everybody doing fine? Do we have any questions that we want to ask or any comments to make? So Trey, one last question before we move to closing. What needs do you see that aren't being addressed, missed, and how can family leaders get involved in work that would be presented in the 2021 legislative session?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're still trying to figure out what are the biggest things that are coming up. Like everybody else in the world, like everything was thrown up into the air because of COVID. And so just signing up for our list right now, honestly, is probably the best way to keep you updated about bills that we're running, but we're also trying to pressure the governor. So there's two things that you can do on your own, and I'm happy to send his email. So Governor Polis, he has every single right in the world right now to extend a moratorium on evictions, which he should. There's other states like Florida and Indiana who are much more red conservative states who have a moratorium that extends past what we have. So it's not okay that our moratorium has ended and there's no extension in sight. So that's the first thing. Please contact him because I'm very mad at him. I'm very, very mad at him. And then second, your local legislator. So Joanne Janal, she's in Fort Collins. If you are in Lakewood, it could be Rachel Zenzinger. I can send you the link to look up your local legislator or city council member, and then you can ask them, please pressure the governor because he can make an executive order. And there's some things that local city council members can do as well. So it always makes sense to pressure your local legislators. And of course, the governor has the most power right now, so that makes sense too.
Thank you, Dre. So how I see that Patty shared on the chat that you would like to please check that link, dementi.com, and share with us that aha moment like we do in our closing circle. We have this very great tool that we have been using in our last sessions that we would like for you to use. So if you don't mind doing that, telling us how you're living tonight after this session, all the information you've got. I see some comments already in there.
Oh, and just a note, the link for the form that Andrea shared doesn't work. It says that we need permission.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah.
I see some comments. The beauty of it is it's in Spanish and in English. Motivated, maybe motivated to start making changes, to be on board, be in, do something, informed, excellent, empowered. Policy change, yes, definitely. Excellent. Preocupada, worried, informed, frustrated, sad, esperanzada, hopeful.
You know, Illyria, I'm thinking this is a heavier topic because it is so important to family stability, and some of these are sad and kind of scary feelings versus our usual hopeful, inspired. But what that makes me think of is sit with that discomfort and use that discomfort to stretch you and grow you into action. like we talk about, you know, in FLTI, is that it's important to stretch, right?
Right. And like Dres said, she said, I mean, we are all in this together. And so we need to, and we as family leaders, we need to start coming together and be part of those changes that need to happen. Because our voices are heard once we start voicing ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also add, so if you are feeling like you just want to reach out to one of your elected officials, I added a link for commoncause.org, and it is really easy to get all of your representatives by just putting in your full address. It will ask for your name if you want to share it, but you can just skip that part if you don't want to share it and get all of, from your federal to your local elected officials.
Well, thank you, Patty. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Are any final comments or closing thoughts that people want to offer before we sign off tonight?
Thank you, Heather, Lyria, Ilda, Kim, Lisa, for all your help for organizing this, and to our guest speakers who shared their stories and the resources and ideas today. Really appreciate all the work you did to make this happen.
You took the words right out of my mouth for all of our guest speakers, and Andrea, thank you so much for being our expert voice tonight, even though, as you shared, this is also something that is that hits home for you because you're a renter as well. And I love what you just said in the chat. I know it's depressing, but we passed 3 new laws this session, and that is all because of the work of family leaders. So what a great note to end on. Thank you.
So that means that it can be done. Sí se puede.
That's right. All right, thank you all. Have a wonderful night, and I hope to be in touch with you all with all the resources that were shared tonight. Oops. I'm trying to end.